In 2024, India's Naval Chief Admiral D.K. Tripathi made a statement that reverberated across the region's strategic circles. India knows who is doing what, where and how in the Indian Ocean region, he declared, a pointed assertion of India's growing maritime domain awareness and its ambition to be the net security provider of the IOR. It was a vision statement, a declaration of intent.
We have also kept a close watch on the activities of extra-regional forces operating in the Indian Ocean region, which included the PLA Navy units, whether it was the warships or their research vessels, satellite tracking ships, and we knew who is doing what, where and how.
Fast forward to 2026, a US submarine torpedoed and sank the Iranian warship IRIS Dena in the Indian Ocean off the southern coast of Sri Lanka, killing over 80 sailors. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was blunt at a press briefing. An American submarine sank an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters, he said. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. What made the incident particularly significant for India was not just its proximity to Indian waters, it was the backstory. The IRIS Dena, a frigate belonging to the Iranian Navy's Southern Fleet, had docked in Visakhapatnam on February 16 to participate in the International Fleet Review and the multilateral exercise Milan 2026. 74 nations participated in the exercise. The United States was not among them. The USS Pinckney, expected to attend, cancelled at the last minute. The exercise concluded on February 25th. 3 days later, the United States and Israel struck Iran, triggering a full-blown war. IRIS Dena, now sailing home from Indian shores, was sunk before she reached port. The Indian Navy, in a statement, confirmed it dispatched assets toward the area after receiving word of the attack. But the broader Indian government maintained a studied silence. No condemnation, no statement of outrage, no diplomatic protest to Washington. That silence triggered a political storm at home. Opposition parties were quick to seize on the optics. Here was a ship that had sailed into India's largest naval showcase, whose arrival was celebrated on official channels, now on the ocean floor, and New Delhi had nothing to say. Arguments were also made whether India had advanced knowledge of the strike, whether LIMOA, the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement with the United States, had been invoked, and whether Indian territory had been used in any way to facilitate the operation. But much of this criticism, however politically potent, overreaches when tested against geography and law. The IRIS Dena was sunk outside India's exclusive economic zone, which extends 200 nautical miles from Indian coastlines. The incident occurred near Sri Lanka's EEZ, making it Sri Lanka's search and rescue jurisdiction, not India's. India had no legal SAR obligation to respond. The Indian Navy acting at all was, if anything, a demonstration of good faith beyond its formal mandate. On the question of shelter, the IRIS Dena's captain, fully aware that Iran was at war by the time the vessel departed Indian waters, had the option to seek refuge in an Indian port. Under established protocols, such a request would in all likelihood have been accommodated. But no report has confirmed that any such request was made. India cannot be held responsible for a protection that was never sought. LIMOA too has been misread in the political discourse. The agreement allows US naval assets access to Indian facilities on a case-to-case basis, with India's explicit prior consent. It creates no automatic permission and draws India into no conflict by default. No reports have confirmed the agreement was invoked here. Was the sinking justified under the laws of armed conflict? Rear Admiral M.D. Suresh, retired, former commander of the Indian Navy's Southern Command, is unequivocal. In war, a warship is a legitimate military target in international waters. Where it has been and where it is headed carry no legal immunity. He argues the calculus is symmetrical. An Iranian commander in reverse circumstances would have made the same call. India's silence was not weakness, nor was it complicity. It was the silence of a country navigating relationships with two powers simultaneously, one a vital strategic and defense partner, the other a civilizational neighbor with whom India shares deep cultural and energy ties. It is the condition of every serious middle power operating in a multipolar world. India's claim to be the Indian Ocean's preeminent security provider is a serious one, backed by serious investment in surveillance, in naval capacity, in multilateral frameworks like Milan itself. But security provision at that scale eventually requires more than capability. It requires a doctrine for how India intends to behave when the ocean it watches becomes a battlefield between others.